Hello, this is Crispin Flintoff from Not the Andrew Marr Show. Before this video starts, I'd just like to ask if you'd subscribe to this channel if you haven't already, because we will be covering the general election from a totally different perspective from what you get from the mainstream media. We'll be talking about the candidates who are taking on Labour and the Tories and pushing them all the way. So please subscribe and get updates. Thank you very much, Craig, for joining us on Not the Andrew Marr Show. A lovely backdrop you've got there. And that's obviously the window that people see, massive window from outside in the street in Blackburn. How are you doing?
Very well. I mean, very, very tired. I was actually working out the other day, and I've had an average of just under 4 hours sleep a night for the last 10 days. So, that's about how exhausting it is to do this kind of thing. But uh, but running on sort of elation and adrenaline and all that, a huge amount of public support on the streets here still. Across all communities, not only in the Asian community by any means, which keeps you going. I'm no idea how the chips will fall, on election day. Once people vote, we will see. But it's
Well, there's
actually quite
only a
fun.
week left. Only a week left now, so you'll be getting some sleep soon. Um, no, I just wanted to ask you because obviously it was a big shock to us what happened earlier this week. But you had said in an interview that I had with you last that you thought Julian Assange would be released before Christmas, and people were doubting you when you said that. Um, and it came out of nowhere. His release. Did you have any idea that it was coming this soon?
I wasn't sure on the timing of it. I knew, um, for months there had been plea deal discussions going on in the background, which I had discussed privately with Stella and with Julian as early as last autumn, I think. And my advice to him had always been not to try to fight to the end, because fighting to the end is not really an option, because if he were sent to the States, it would be years before the substantive trial was even heard. There'd be all kinds of pre-trial motions and things. They'd be in jail for a couple of years waiting for the substantial trial. To have little chance of a fair hearing in the Eastern District of Virginia. And by the time you actually got the thing right up to the Supreme Court, Julian's very unlikely to have survived long enough in prison to win a kind of startling freedom of speech victory. I thought it was much, much more important to save his life and get him out and get him back to his wife and kids. And nobody will believe the guilty verdict. It's a coerced verdict. It's basically made at threat of death. Julian's not guilty of anything, but the coerced plea is a nonsense.
So he effectively they're saying that the U.S. attorneys or government said we'll let you go if you say that you've done this, that you've confessed to this thing. That's not particularly very strong on their part, is it? Considering they wanted him to be extradited and imprisoned for ages. Well, had they really lost the case in that last hearing?
Well, I think that was a large part. I think there were two things. The first thing is, as we discussed at the time, I think they really painted themselves into a corner in the last hearing. It was difficult to get out of by failing to give an assurance that he wouldn't be debarred from claiming a First Amendment on grounds of nationality. So there was a very, very strong chance that the court could rule against them on that, particularly when Dame Victoria Sharp was appointed to hear the case again. Because her thinking on it seems to have been fairly clear. So that gave him an incentive, because there was a real chance they could lose and he could be released anyway. And secondly, of course, things are going bad enough for Biden as it is, and having Julian Assange arriving in chains during the American election campaign and having all the media running editorials saying this is an important attack on freedom of speech wouldn't have been good for Biden either. So, they had two powerful motives to agree to offer some kind of deal and let Julian free, and they went for it.
So they're just trying to save face, effectively, the US, by getting some kind of thing that he's pleaded guilty to this thing, so they don't look too stupid. Is that the whole thing? Is it?
Yeah, I think that's absolutely right. I think that's exactly what it is. And it should be said, of course, that the reason they had to do all this was because of the campaigners, all the campaigners all around the world who campaigned for Julian, who turned public opinion. That's what made it dangerous for Biden. That's what made the establishment here not really want to go through with it, because public opinion on Julian has completely changed over the last 10 years. And that's due to all the fantastic campaigners out on the streets, all the people who held banners, people who stood on street corners or outside embassies or courtrooms for years and years, all over the world, all over the world. You know, there's a little lady I met in Hamburg who'd been standing every single weekend with an Assange banner there. And I've met such people literally everywhere. And that's what changed public opinion around. It was street campaigning and social media. That's what did it.
I mean, the thing that some people are drawing from this is that it's a bad precedent that his plea bargain, his plea deal. It sets a bad precedent. But you've made a point that it's not from a senior court. Can you explain what that's all about? The bad precedent possibility, and also what the senior court means.
It's just from a lower court. It's from it's from the district court in the whatever islands there, and that means anyone else who's charged that will go to.
It was in that. Sorry, so just because it was in that small island court, it's not a senior court. You mean?
Well, no, I mean, it could have been a district court anywhere. It could have been a district court in East Virginia, which would have the same standing. But because it's only in a district court, that means the next case that goes to a district court, the prosecution, to any district court anywhere, the prosecution can say, well, yeah, look, we've got this case here from this district court. That's a precedent. You can do this in law. But that's exactly the same as say you're charged with something in, I hope you're not, but say you're charged with something where you live. The prosecutor can go and say, well, look, this case happened in Uxbridge Magistrates Court. So you can do this. And then the court you're in, which is the same level as Uxbridge Magistrates Court, can decide if they want to follow that or not. It's up to them. Whereas if it's from a senior court, if they come back and say this is from the High Court or the Court of Appeal or the Supreme Court, then the lower court has to follow. You know, that's
Right.
law, they have to follow.
I see.
But,
so it's
but if it's just
court.
another court on their own level, it just shows, well, you can do this, but it's not a binding precedent. It's not from a higher court that they're not allowed to go against. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Now the next question is: I know you've been busy on these interviews. I want to know: can he come to the UK? He's gone to Australia. Is he able to come back here?
He would be now, yeah. He's not. One of the great things about doing it through a plea deal and resolving the issue is he's now safe to go anywhere. He's not going to face his charge. Well, they may try and assassinate him, of course, so he's not safe in that way. But he's safe from legal persecution. The case is over. And one of the possible outcomes, if he succeeded in fighting extradition, if the extradition court had ruled against him in London and this plea deal hadn't been done, and the UK or the English and Welsh courts had blocked extradition in 2 weeks' time, then he'd have been stuck in England and Wales. That's exactly the position Laurie Love is in. Laurie Love won his case against extradition to the United States in England and Wales, so he can't be extradited from England and Wales. But Laurie Love can't go anywhere else, because wherever he goes next, or he can't go anywhere else that has an extradition treaty with the United States, because wherever he goes next, they could try and extradite him again, because that case isn't over. He just blocked extradition. And Laurie Love, for example, wasn't even able to come and visit me in Scotland, in case, which is a separate jurisdiction, in case the United States applied for extradition from there. So Julian could have been stuck in England and Wales, but doing it this way, he's free everywhere in the world.
Right, so he can come back to here. So his family could stay here. I mean, I'm just thinking they don't all have to move to Australia. the children and Stella, which is quite a thing for children to change school and all. I don't know.
It is though, but I mean, when I'm some years ago, admittedly, I discussed with Julian where he would like to go ultimately, where he would like to, and he was absolutely adamant that the last place in the world he wants to live is England. He'd completely had enough of the country and was sick to his teeth of it, and definitely did not want to be in England, wherever else he wanted to be. And conceivably he's changed his mind a little bit since then, but I still don't think it's very high on his list.
Right. Okay. So he can't come back and campaign for you in Blackburn, is what I'm wondering.
Oh, I see. That'd be great, wouldn't it? It leapt on a jet. I think he's probably a little busy getting to know his wife, because, to be perfectly honest, I'll be quite open here. This morning, I was actually thinking about whether or not to send Stella a message saying, "Stella, can you get Julian to videotape a 20-second message saying vote for Craig Murray and Blackburn?" And then I decided, after thinking about it, that no, I really shouldn't bother them at this moment. We should leave them on their own.
Yeah, no, but it would be. I mean, we would all love to see him. So that's the thing. I mean, if he came over, we could do a big celebration for him. That would be great. But I can also understand why he wouldn't want to come back here. It's hardly they had good memories for him. Now, I'll just move on to another part of your busy life. Standing in Blackburn, one of the other candidates has pulled out and supported you, Tiger Patel. So can you tell us when that came about, why that came about, and what the significance of that is?
It came about 3 or 4 days ago. Tiger was an independent candidate. He was actually the first independent candidate to declare. He declared back in December. And Tiger's a local councillor, and actually an extremely nice man. I mean, I've always got on very well with Tiger, and never heard anything against him. When I first arrived, he was very worried about me being away from my family, and he offered to send food round to the house for me to eat and that kind of thing. So he's a very, very nice guy, and we've got on like a house on fire ever since I came. And he decided ultimately that he hadn't got a chance of winning, and I had got a chance of winning. So he stood down in my favour, and I'm very grateful to him. And I would think he probably would have got between 3,000 and 4,000 votes, which will now, majority of those will now come to me instead, which I'm obviously very pleased with, and I think it puts us in with a genuine chance of defeating Labour here, despite other more stubborn independent candidates still refusing to back down.
Yeah, I mean, the other independent candidate is still sticking to his guns, and I've noticed some other media are making out that there's still two sides to the story, that you could stand down or he could stand down. But you've shown so much evidence that the other candidate is backed by people from like Jack Straw's office before, who worked in Jack Straw's office, and other links with Labour, that it doesn't seem plausible to support this other independent. And I can't really understand anyone who's got this. There's two sides to the story line. But what I admire is that you've stuck to your guns, and you haven't stood down and been cajoled into this. And then I saw this on your Twitter feed this morning, which is just shocking. This is a clip from 5 Pillars, who haven't been particularly supportive towards you, and this is. I'll just play this clip that you've shared.
वो एक अच्छी आवाज उठाता है, लेकिन वो तन्हा है, अकेला है। अकेले आदमी कोई आवाज नहीं होती, बल्कि उसको फिर दूसरे जो आते हैं वो दबाने की कोशिश करते हैं, तू क्यों कहता है। इस वक्त गजा जो है वो किसी एक मुल्क का मसला नहीं है, ये नहीं बोले, वो नहीं बोले, ये वो पाकिस्तान नहीं बोला, यार सऊदीया नहीं बोला, तुर्की नहीं बोला, सही है, अबू धाबी, दुबई, ये सारे मुसलमान कोई भी नहीं बोला। ईरान बोला, उनमें जवाब में सदरी मार दी। यानी कि ये तूफान है इस वक्त, जो है ना दज्जाल के आने का दौर है। ये आजकल जो सबको आपके हाथ में कुछ नहीं है, कंप्यूटर में सब कुछ आ गया ना। एक ऐसा वक्त आ गया कंप्यूटर बंद, चीज बंद हो जाए, तुम्हारे अकाउंट बंद है, तुम्हारा आना जाना बंद है, चीज बंद हो जाए। वक्त पूर्वी क़यामत है, अपना चाहते हैं, लेकिन पार्टी इस वक्त लेबर ही है, उसकी हम बहती है। पहले भी उसकी हम बहती थी हम, क्योंकि अब हम लेबर हैं, हम मजदूर लोग हैं, वो हमारा ख्याल रखते हैं, इसलिए बीबी की आप हिमायत करें।
And that's a prominent imam endorsing Labour's Kate Holland, and she's in that room there, and you can see a banner behind her. I mean, the whole thing about there's nothing you can do about Gaza. I mean, that is appalling, isn't it?
Really horrible. I mean, it's exactly what happened when I was here standing against Jack Straw in 2005 in Iraq. It's exactly the same argument where the Muslim, Jack Straw had the blood of over 1 million Iraqis on his hands. He's the man who actually told the lies about the weapons of mass destruction and caused a war to grab oil, killing millions of Muslims. And the Muslim leaders here all did exactly that. They said, oh no, we're Labour, we're always Labour, we're going to vote for them. Those Iraqis are nothing to do with us, dead Iraqis, they're a long way away, nothing we can do about it, we're all going to vote Labour. And this kind of abdication of moral responsibility for foreign policy and for the actions of the government that our worker, our Labour pays for government, and the government claims to act on our behalf. This idea that we have no moral responsibility and that what they do shouldn't affect how we vote, it's so obviously intellectually pathetic, but it's also morally disgusting. And I personally, to me, I'm not a fan of the notion of theocracy. I don't like the idea of religious leaders directly telling people how to vote. Anyway, that seems to me extraordinary. To tell people to vote for those who support a genocide, if you're a religious leader, and then to tell people to vote for people who support a genocide of people largely of your own religion, that seems to me just incomprehensible and horrible.
Yeah, I mean, it just reminds me that a lot of people think this is about Muslims and what's going on in Gaza. It just affects Muslims, and it's just not true. It isn't just. It's about humanity and what's right, and it's not at all to do with religion. It's a bit like. Do you think it's a bit like the way that Israel are making it about Jewishness? It's not about that either. They're trying to make this all about religion. Some people are making this all about religion, and it isn't. It's about decent human care for each other and not killing people and genocide.
I think that's exactly true. I mean, I have the majority of those killed in Palestine are not of the same religion as me, but it doesn't in any sense reduce my feeling of empathy for them. Small children are small children, and I don't care what religion are, they're being blown up. And of course, a significant minority of Palestinians are the oldest Christian community in the world. And the Zionists have been destroying churches just as systematically as they've been destroying mosques. So, the attempt to turn this into a religious war is indeed wrong, but also there is something, but there's still something extraordinarily shocking about imams supporting Labour who are supporting Israel. That just feels fundamentally wrong.
Yeah, look, just to finish what we're talking about with Blackburn and everything else. You've got Dr. Bob Gill visiting this evening. The NHS, the lies that Labour are telling about saving the NHS. I mean, that is one of the other disturbing aspects of this election, when they're clearly going to be undermining it from the start, and that isn't going out at all on media, is it? It's shocking.
No, that's right. If you are anywhere near Blackburn, we've got an excellent meeting at the at Blackburn Library today at 6 o'clock with Dr. Bob Gill, who's the expert on the NHS. And yeah, the Labour Party plans further and further privatisation of NHS services, and the Labour Party is full of MPs sponsored by the private healthcare lobby, including their health secretary, and sponsored by the private healthcare lobby to a very large extent. And anybody who thinks that the pro-Israel lobby is the only lobby which is a problem is absolutely wrong. So we're having that meeting today on healthcare. We are the only campaign here which actually holds public meetings to which anyone can turn up and ask a question, and which try to get information out to people. This will be our 4th public meeting of the campaign. Do come along if you're anywhere near. And I should announce that on Tuesday at 4:00, we're going to have our final public meeting with Roger Waters as the guest speaker.
Wow.
Yeah, so that should be really quite something. Tuesday at 4:00, Roger Waters.
I can't believe what you're doing up there, Craig. You're causing a sensation in Blackburn. Everything about your campaign is fantastic, and we're all rooting for you. And I know you're tired. There's only a week left, and then you'll be the MP, and then it'll all start again, and you'll get less sleep, even more. You'll get even less sleep. I mean, from then on. Are you looking forward to less sleep after that?
Yeah, I'm hoping I'm the MP, because with Julian being released, my diary has just emptied for the next 3 months. I was going to really get stuck into the Assange campaign afterwards, and I'm looking for. I've got about 32 cancelled dates that have now come up. So you need to put me into Parliament just so I'm not sitting around being idle. I will say to everyone, it is great here. If you've got a local candidate with a good chance of winning against Labour, a decent local pro-Palestine or anti-war candidate with a good chance of winning against Labour, give them a hand. If you haven't, come here to Blackburn. We'll find a floor to use to sleep on. It's an active, energetic campaign. We really need people. We've still got tens of thousands of leaflets we're putting out. We need to talk to people in the street. We need to do this. We need to swing it. Do come. And if you can't come, go to my website and send money. And if you do neither, I shall be really cross.
Right, okay. I think you've told us now.